Hear from him momentarily, but in case you need a reminder on this season's huge changes in Phoenix, let's do that now, because both Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, they're no longer with the team. Beal agreed to a buyout. He joined the Clippers. Durant, he was sent to the Rockets in a historic 7-team trade. Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, they formed part of the Suns' return in that deal, but Phoenix also replaced Mike Budenholzer with first-time head coach Jordan Ott, who of course spent 7 seasons as an NBA assistant coach. And the Suns, they also signed their all-time leading scorer Devin Booker to a 2-year, $145 million max extension. The 28-year-old, he enters the season with 5 years and over $300 million left on his deal. He spoke earlier today.
You know, not getting to where we wanted to with Kevin and Brad, two guys that I have a high respect for and always will. You know, the opportunity to play alongside them was, you know, a lot in its own, but, you know, it'll always be a disappointment to me to, you know, not do what, you know, we all sought out to do.
I'm excited to play with Book. I think it's going to be a good situation. I think I'm going to be able to learn a lot from him, while at the same time, you know, adding what I could bring to the table. I think we're going to complement each other a lot, especially, you know, with the system that Oscar is playing in. I think we're going to be playing fast, and I think we're going to be able to create a lot for each other and create for others. So I'm very excited about it, and I think we're going to shock a lot of people too.
Well, if you can shock Big Perk, then you know you've really done something. Kendrick Perkins is here alongside our front office insider, Bobby Marks, our senior writer, Tim Bontemps. Perk, I'm going to start with you here. You heard Jalen Green. He says they're going to shock a lot of people. Does this include you?
You're damn right it do. I'm waiting for them to shock me, especially after the performance Jalen Green put on last in the postseason, averaging about 9 points, is the reason that the Rockets got rid of him. But I'm looking at Devin Booker right now, and I'm saying he's on the clock. And when I say on the clock, it's time for Devin Booker to show the world that he belongs, right? And when I say belong in the company of an Anthony Edwards, belong in the company of an SGA. Can he be a guy that could be that guy, that number one option of this Phoenix Suns franchise? And I'm waiting to see it. Like, yes, he went to the NBA Finals, you know, 3 or 4 years ago.
2021.
And yes, but he had CP3. He had CP3. He had DeAndre Ayton. And now all of a sudden you done lost a lot of coaches throughout these last 4 years. You done lost a lot of players. Now I'm ready to see, and it's time for Devin Booker to prove that he belongs in that elite company.
So, Perk, you aren't the only one that would be surprised here, because young Mr. Bontemps, who is sitting to my left, he just finished up a new poll, right? ESPN's NBA Future Power Rankings. And in your findings, Tim...
Bobby was also part of that.
Bobby was a part of this as well. I just feel like when we hear poll, I think of Tim Bontemps spearheading the efforts here for us at ESPN. The Suns, they finished near the very bottom. Is that right?
They finished at the bottom. Dead last.
Okay.
Dead last. As you can see here, they're 30th in the Future Power Rankings. And look, when you look at where the Suns are at, it's not a huge shock, right? This ranking takes into account what your draft pick situation is. The Suns obviously don't have any draft picks going forward. It takes into account your financial situation. They just waived $100 million of Bradley Beal's contract. And it also, most importantly, takes into account your current talent level.
Yep. And
the Suns just lost Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant and replaced them, as Perk said, with Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks. Like, that's not an equitable talent trade, right? So while I think Perk's points about Devin Booker are fair, there's a lot more problems in Phoenix than the state of Devin Booker.
I always appreciate the cheer that you bring to this set, Tim. Bobby, I didn't mean to dismiss you from the poll. It was you, it was Kevin Pelton, and it was Tim Bontemps. The state of this team right now, juxtaposed with what we heard at Media Day, is what?
Well, I have good news for you Phoenix Suns fans out there. About 3 years ago, we also had the New York Knicks on the bottom of the Future Power Rankings, and look where New York is right now as far as a contending team in the Eastern Conference. I will say this, and it might be shocking to you, they're in a better spot right now than they were a year ago because they have ripped the Band-Aid off of an experiment that did not work with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. But it's 2 years later, and now they're cleaning up the pieces here with some younger players, with certainly Mark Williams, who they went out and made a trade for Colin Malowich. The problem, though, Malik, is they don't have the draft equity to kind of get them out of this hole, and they're still sitting on this Bradley Beal money, nearly $20 million a year. It's almost too late, 2 years later than when the CBA started to put the really teeth in, and they learned a valuable lesson. You can't just go out and trade for high-priced players and give up the farm to do so here, and there's a lot of digging to do so. And the Western Conference, as you know, is a bear. It is a bear to get into that top 10, and unfortunately, I think Phoenix is going to find the realization that they're just not one of those top 10 teams this year.
So you talk to coaches and to GMs and folks around the league in the process of putting all of this together, Tim. And you hear from Devin Booker, of course, he has been loyal to Phoenix and he loves this city. What do you think he should be looking at this season to be put around him to continue to feel good about this extension that he just signed?
Well, I mean, to me, it's a question about what does Devin Booker want, right? If Devin Booker wants to spend his career with the Phoenix Suns and to try to be, go down as the best player in the history of the Suns franchise, I think that's a perfectly honorable thing to do. We just saw Damian Lillard spend a whole bunch of time with Portland. He's going to go down as probably the best player to ever play for the Blazers. Like, that's a cool legacy to have. But if he wants to be a guy who has a chance to compete for championships, let's just be honest. In his prime of his career, that's not going to happen with the Phoenix Suns. There's way too much work to do. As Bobby Marks said, it's good that they ripped the Band-Aid off. They had to rip the Band-Aid off and stop digging. That's the first way to get yourself out of the problem. The problem is they've dug a hole the size of the Grand Canyon. So now to get out of it, it's just literally just going to take time, even if they do everything right. So, like I said, to me, this is about what does Devin want his career to be. He wants to be a one-team player. He wants to spend his career with the Suns. I think that's great. But if he does want to be a guy that's competing at the highest level, it's hard for me to see a realistic path that happening with the Suns.
Perk, you've been a fan of Devin Booker's over the years. Last word on this.
Well, I just want to see his leadership elevate, right? We heard last season after he came back from the Olympics, he talked about how he wanted to be a better leader. Well, we haven't seen that. We haven't witnessed that yet. And now, with him having the keys to it, not having any distractions, he have a nice young coach on the sideline. He have some guys that are going to be stars in their role. Obviously, they drafted well, getting a center, athletic big that could protect the basket, be a lob threat at the basket. It's going to take time for him to grow. Like, how are you going to guide and lead a Jalen Green the way that CP3 took Devin Booker under his wing? It's time for him to show up and show out. No more talking. Let the game do the talking, and also show that this organization has a foundation and that it's not built on sand.
Well, we are going to have Governor. At first, I thought you said sin. I said, is it built on sin or built on sand? We are going to have. The East is more open than it's been in years. But I feel like every time you say that, then it proves not to be true. But in this case, it's because of injuries, right? Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton. Nevertheless, the Cavaliers and the Knicks, they do have the shortest odds to win the conference. And speaking of the Knicks, they held their media day yesterday. Here's what they had to say about their starting lineup.
It will materialize throughout camp. I think it's too early to go in and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. The roster, Leon and his group did a fantastic job putting together a talented, deep roster, and so you have to be methodical with your approach when it comes to declaring, okay, hey, these guys are going to start.
Obviously, everyone being new to this is going to take some time, but very excited to get to learn more and understand his philosophies and his concepts, and I think once we get started, we're going to get off to the right path.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't start, I'll probably ask for a trade and go somewhere else.
So the good news is Knicks fans are wonderfully patient, right, about who their starting lineup, what that is going to look like here. Tim, you were actually in the building before you jetted cross country to come visit us here in Los Angeles. So fans are saying, wait, we don't know who our starting lineup is going to be, but you were actually there. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway is that it's going to be one of a couple of options.
Yeah.
We'll start with the one that we just ended with Josh Hart, right? He started 77 games last year, obviously was a huge part of their team. Josh Hart is going to be out there in the starting lineup. That's probably going to be allowing the Knicks to play as fast as they want to do under Mike Brown. That's one option they have. Another option they have is to go with Mitchell Robinson at center next to Karl-Anthony Towns. They did that in the conference finals against the Pacers at Josh Hart's suggestion when they were struggling in that series. That's probably their best defensive lineup. And then the other way they could possibly go, Malik, is they could start Deuce McBride next to Jalen Brunson. Now, yesterday, Mike Brown talked a lot about wanting to get Jalen Brunson off the ball, wanting to get more threes in transition. And if you want to space the floor and have the best shooting out there, Deuce McBride of these three options is the best shooter of them. So there are a few different ways the Knicks could go, which is interesting given this is a team that spent so much time with those 5 guys.
Yep.
OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Brunson, Towns, and Hart on the court together last year. But I do think one of the big storylines of the preseason across the league is going to be what direction Mike Brown wants to go with that starting 5 and what it means for the trickle-down effect for the rest of the Knicks roster.
How do you view this, Perk?
It shouldn't be a damn storyline, not if you're trying to win and contend for a title. And this is the reason that they got their asses kicked last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, because they was actually playing against a team that played a gender-free basketball and sacrifice. When you're trying to win, it's about sacrificing. One, is not about who starts, it's about who finished the game. Who wants to be in there when it matters the most? 2, what is the most important piece that's going to get you over the hump? Who is that person? It is Karl Anthony Towns. How can you put him in the best position possible defensively? You know how? By letting him play the 4. Don't have Karl Anthony Towns being your 5 and your center to be your anchor defensively. We saw the success that he had when he was in Minnesota playing alongside Rudy Gobert and letting Rudy take on all the defensive assignments. If I'm Mike Brown, this is not even a question. I start Mitchell Robinson. And if it's about winning, everyone has to fall in line. If it's about